Strangers do not see you. They never did. What they see is a signal, a collection of signals, actually. Your shoes, your watch, the car you arrived in, the way you hold yourself when you walk into a room that is slightly too expensive for you, the way you hold yourself when you walk into a room that is slightly beneath you. They read all of it in 3 seconds, before you open your mouth, before you extend your hand, before you have done a single thing to earn or lose their attention. And then they decide. Not consciously. Nobody sits down and calculates. It happens the way breathing happens, without effort, without awareness, without any real choice on either side. They decide what you are worth, and then they treat you accordingly. This is not a cynical observation. It is not a critique. It is just the mechanic, the actual operating system running underneath every interaction you have ever had with a person who does not know you. And the thing that changes that mechanic, the single variable that rewrites every interaction, is one number: your net worth. You are invisible. Not in the way people mean when they say they feel unseen, not emotionally, literally. Functionally invisible in the way that a background element is invisible, present, registered, not processed. You walk into a store, a clothing store, not expensive, not cheap, the kind of store where the employees work on commission and have learned through thousands of interactions to read signals quickly and accurately. The employee near the door looks up, sees you, looks back down, does not move. This is not rudeness. It is efficiency. You are being sorted. You sit at a restaurant, a mid-range restaurant, the kind of place where the service is supposed to be attentive but not formal. The waiter comes to the table next to yours twice before he comes to yours, once. When he does come, he's not unkind, he's just efficient. He takes your order. He does not suggest anything. He does not tell you what is good tonight. He gives you the minimum version of the interaction and moves on. You leave a reasonable tip because you know what it is like to work for tips. He does not notice the tip until after you have left. By then, he has already moved to the next table. At zero, strangers are not cruel to you. Cruelty would require noticing you. They are simply operating from a reading that says, not here, not now, not this one. And the specific weight of that, the weight of being sorted without being seen, is something you carry without naming it, because there is no one to complain to, because nothing wrong happened, because you were simply read correctly and found to be not worth the full attention. That is the thing about zero that nobody tells you. It is not that people treat you badly, it's that people treat you like you're probably not going to matter. And most of the time, from their perspective, they are right, and you know they are right. And that's the part that sits with you on the drive home. The shift is so small you almost miss it. You are not rich. You are not even comfortable in any real sense. $10,000 is an emergency fund. It is 3 months of breathing room. It is the difference between a crisis and a catastrophe, not the difference between struggling and stable. But something has changed, not in your bank account, in how you carry the fact of your bank account. You walk into the same store, the employee still does not rush toward you, but when you pick something up, when you show actual interest in an item, he appears, not immediately, but within a reasonable time. He asks if you need help. He means it in a transactional way, but he asks. The waiter at the restaurant refills your water without being asked. Small, functionally meaningless, but it is the first time you notice that service has a texture and that the texture is different for different people. You are still not someone people notice when you walk in, but you are someone people do not dismiss when you are standing in front of them. You have crossed a line, the line between person who probably won't and person who might. Nobody announced the line. Nobody told you it existed. You crossed it anyway, and you feel it. Not as triumph, as relief, the specific relief of no longer being the person that gets the minimum version of every interaction. That relief is small, and it shouldn't matter as much as it does. It matters exactly as much as it does. You are now someone people remember. Not because you are memorable, because you came back, because you came back with money. Those two things are the same thing to most strangers, and that is not cynicism. That is just how memory serves when memory serves a function. The tailor remembers your name on the third visit. He did not remember it on the first. He did not remember it on the second. On the third, when it is clear you are a returning customer, he remembers. The memory is a business decision wearing the costume of warmth. You understand this. You accept it anyway, because the warmth still feels like warmth, even when you can see the mechanism underneath it. The mechanic explains things differently now. Not simpler, more complete, more respectful. He used to give you the short version, the version that ends with "just trust me" and assumes you can't follow the full explanation. Now he gives you the full version, the version with options and trade-offs and the honest assessment of what is worth fixing and what is not. He is treating you like someone whose opinion about their own money matters. That should have always been true. It wasn't. Now it is. The difference is $100,000 sitting in an account that nobody in this interaction can see, but everybody can somehow sense. This is when you first start to understand that strangers are not responding to you. They are responding to a version of you they have constructed from signals. The signals have changed. The version they constructed has changed. You have not changed. That gap between who you are and who they are responding to is something you will spend a long time learning to live inside. Doors open before you knock. Not literally, but close enough that the difference barely matters. The restaurant with the 2-week wait has a table when you call. Not immediately, not magically, but within a time frame that makes clear the 2-week wait was not really 2 weeks for everyone. The contractor who was fully booked finds a gap. The person at the front desk who used to process you now receives you. The distinction between processing and receiving is small and everything. You did not become more interesting, you became more legible. The number attached to your name is large enough now that it travels slightly ahead of you. People who have not met you have already made decisions about how to treat you before you arrive. You are pre-sorted into a better category. The sorting happens without your participation and without your consent, but entirely in your favor. This is when you first understand something that you will keep understanding at every level above this one. You are not being treated well because of who you are. You are being treated well because of what you represent. You are a signal, an attractive signal, and people are responding to the signal. The moment you understand that distinction, really understand it, not just as an idea but as an experience, you cannot go back to not understanding it. Every good interaction from this point forward carries a small asterisk. The asterisk that says, is this me or is this the number? Most of the time, you cannot tell. That is the answer to the question. Most of the time, it is both, and the two things are not separable. And if you are honest, if you are really honest, sometimes it feels good anyway. Even knowing, even seeing the mechanism, the warmth still lands. That is the part nobody admits out loud. You admit it to yourself at 500,000 for the first time. People perform for you now. The salesman laughs too hard at the thing you said that was not that funny. The hotel manager appears personally to verify that everything is satisfactory. The business contact who ignored your emails 3 years ago sends a message to reconnect, warm and casual, as if the silence never happened, as if you both simply lost touch the way busy people do. None of this is genuine. All of it is completely understandable. You would probably do the same in their position. The number is large enough now that performing for it makes rational sense. You are not being flattered. You are being invested in. The performance is the investment. The hope is that the warmth generates access, and the access generates return. You know this. Knowing it does not stop the performance from landing. Warmth is warmth, even when it is strategic. The brain does not easily separate the two. You stop trying to separate them and start just watching. But here is what changes at this level that nobody prepared you for. You become a bad reader of people. Before the million, you were calibrated. You knew when someone genuinely liked you versus when someone was being polite. You could read a room. You had spent years developing the social accuracy that comes from existing in a world where most people are not performing for you, where most interactions are neutral, where you have to read the actual signal because there is no performance obscuring it. Now everyone is performing, not maliciously, naturally. And because everyone is performing, your calibration breaks. You cannot tell anymore who is actually glad to see you and who is glad to see the number. The two things look identical from the outside. They feel identical from the inside. You develop a new skill, the skill of assuming performance until proven otherwise. You become skeptical of warmth by default. You start requiring evidence of genuine interest before you extend trust. This makes you sharper. It also makes you lonelier than you expected to be at a level that was supposed to feel like a rival. If this is landing differently than you expected, subscribe, because the next levels get stranger, and nobody talks about them honestly. Strangers treat you like a category now. Not a person, a category, a file they have assembled before you walked in, from your LinkedIn and your reputation and whatever version of your story reached them before you did. Old money or new, self-made or inherited, operator or investor, serious or lucky. They have placed you before the first sentence. The file may be wrong. It is usually partially wrong. It doesn't matter. They are operating from the file, and the file is what you are to them until something changes the file. The journalist interviewing you is looking for the quote that fits the story she already has. The investor across the table is deciding in the first 5 minutes whether you belong in his world or are still in the process of earning your way there. The person at the networking event who shook your hand firmly and then immediately looked over your shoulder to see who else was in the room, they were not being rude. You were simply not the highest value signal they had identified that evening. At 3 million, you have enough to be taken seriously. You do not yet have enough to stop being evaluated. You're in the transitional zone, which has its own specific texture. Too much for one world, not quite enough for the next. The people below you see a ceiling. The people above you see an applicant. You sit with it. You learn to perform back. You learn to manage the file. You learn which version of your story opens the right doors and which version closes the wrong ones. This is not dishonesty. It is navigation. The navigation of a world that has decided what you are before you have had a chance to show them. You stop going to the room. The room comes to you. Meetings move around your schedule now. Dinners are planned based on your availability. The other person always offers to come to you, always, without being asked, as if the idea of you inconveniencing yourself to travel to them would be obviously inappropriate. This feels like respect. Some of it is respect. Some of it is just resource allocation by people who want access and are willing to pay for it in inconvenience. The distinction matters less than you thought it would. Strangers research you before they meet you. You can tell every time. There is a specific quality to the first few minutes of a conversation with someone who has done their homework on you. They ask questions they already know the answers to. They reference your history in a way that is meant to demonstrate preparation. They are showing you that you are worth preparing for. You are being auditioned for. The stranger across the table wants something: access, capital, a connection, validation, an endorsement, a story they can tell about having been in a room with you. They are not hiding the want, they are just not naming it yet. The first half of every new conversation is the performance before the ask. You can feel the ask coming the way you can feel weather changing. At 10 million, almost no interaction with a new person is neutral anymore. Everyone wants something. That is not a complaint. It is just what the number does to the room. Neutrality was a luxury of the earlier levels. You did not know it was a luxury until it was gone. You have become an institution. Strangers do not treat you like a person at this level. They treat you like a force that has to be navigated carefully, respectfully, with awareness of what you represent and what you can do and what offending you might cost. The politician shakes your hand with both of his. The charity event seats you where you can be seen. The journalist chooses words around you carefully, aware that the story they write will either benefit from your cooperation or suffer from your disapproval. People laugh before the punchline when you are telling the story, not because they are sycophants, though some are, but because laughing before the punchline is a signal. The signal says, I am with you, I am safe, I am not a threat. None of this is about you. All of this is about the number. And here's what takes the longest to accept at this level. Most strangers will never actually meet you. They will meet the idea of you, the version assembled from your net worth and your reputation and the story they constructed before you walked in. The real you, the version that has doubts and preferences and a specific way you like your coffee and things that make you laugh without trying, that version is not accessible to most people who meet you. Not because you are hiding it, because the number is too loud. It fills the room before you arrive. It drowns out everything quieter. You can be present, you can be genuine, you can try to have a real conversation, but the other person is also having a conversation with the institution, with the number, with the file. And those two conversations, the real one and the performed one, run simultaneously, and you cannot always tell which one is actually happening. You stop trying to tell. You learn to be grateful for the moments when someone forgets the number long enough to just talk to you. Those moments are rarer than you expected. They are more valuable than anything the number can buy. Here is what money actually does to strangers. It does not make them like you. It does not make them dislike you. It changes what they see when they look at you. It changes the story they tell themselves about who you are before you've had a chance to tell it yourself. At 0, they see someone to sort. At 10,000, they see someone worth a second glance. At 100,000, they see someone worth remembering. At 500,000, they see a signal worth responding to. At 1 million, they see a performance worth giving. At 3 million, they see a category worth placing. At 10 million, they see an access point worth pursuing. At 50 million, they see an institution worth managing. The person underneath all of those readings is the same person. That is the thing money cannot touch, cannot inflate, cannot corrupt, cannot buy back once it's gone. The person that existed before the first dollar and will exist after the last one. The version of you that your nephew talks to for 20 minutes about a video game without knowing what any of the numbers mean. Strangers will always see the number first. The only people who ever see past it are the ones who knew you before you had one. Hold on to them. Not because they keep you grounded, that's the advice everyone gives, and it's not wrong, but it's incomplete. Hold on to them because they are the only ones who are actually talking to you. Subscribe and watch the Generational Wealth series next, because what happens when the number outlives you is a completely different conversation.